Hey there, Saki here from SAKITECH, and in today's video, I want to do a full comparison between the iPhone XR and the iPhone XS Max. Now, these are the latest iPhones from Apple, and prospective iPhone buyers are wondering which one is the better option to buy. Despite looking very similar, there are actually many underlying differences between these smartphones that I'm going to outline in full detail. So let's do a deep dive and compare every aspect of these smartphones to give you a clear and concise answer and put your questions to rest. Let's dive in and get started with the build and design. Now, I will be referring to the iPhone XS Max as the iPhone XS in this video for the sake of ease. Both the iPhone XR and the iPhone XS use the exact same glass in their construction for the front screen and the back panel. However, the metal band around the edges of the device on the iPhone XR is made out of aluminum, while the one on the XS is made out of stainless steel. Stainless steel is a tougher metal overall. Now, as you can see, the overall design of these phones is basically identical except for the larger form factor of the iPhone X Max. If you look carefully, it also has slightly thicker bezels around its frame. Both phones are water resistant. However, the XS has a higher IP68 grade water resistance, while the iPhone XR has an IP67 grade water resistance. For normal situations such as accidental water splashes or rain, both do an excellent job of protecting your phone. However, if you were to submerge into water, the XS has the capacity to go as deep as 2 meters for 30 minutes as opposed to 1 meters of the XS for 30 minutes. They also have the exact same wide stereo speakers that produce equally loud and rich sound from the dual speakers. So in this category, the lead certainly goes to the iPhone XS. We can see very quickly the minor differences between the two are numerous. However, so far the differences are not yet enough to make a decision between the two. So let's keep diving deeper. Let's talk about the processor, memory, software, and biometrics. Now, both the iPhone XS and the XR offer Apple's latest and fastest A12 Bionic chip. However, the XR comes with 3 GB of RAM, while the XS comes with 4 GB of RAM. This RAM difference doesn't make too much of a difference in day-to-day performance. Now, the XR comes with a base storage of 64 GB for $750, while the Max comes with a base storage of 64 GB as well with $1,100, so the price difference is $350. Both smartphones offer the exact same software functionality as they run the exact same iOS software. The speed, fluidity, and snappiness of software is equal. Apps will run with equal speed and games will run with equal smoothness. I'm also going to throw in the Face ID system in this category and mention that they are also identical in security and speed and work flawlessly on both smartphones. So in this department, power and software and security, these phones are nearly identical except for that RAM. So let's talk about the dimensions. The XS Max measures 157.5 millimeters tall, it's 77.4 millimeters wide, and it's 7.7 millimeters thick. It weighs 208 grams. Now, the iPhone XR measures 150.9 millimeters in height, 75.7 millimeters wide, and 8.3 millimeters thick. It weighs 194 grams. Obviously, the XS Max has a larger footprint due to its larger display. Now, both phones are easy to manage with one hand for many things, but do require your second hand for maximum usability. But let's actually move on and talk about the display, a very important category. So the display on the XS Max is a 6.5-inch OLED display with a resolution of 2688 by 1242 and 458 pixels per inches. The XR has a smaller 6.1-inch display, but a lower 1792 by 828 resolution and 326 pixels per inches. When you put these phones side by side to watch movies or increase the maximum brightness, zoom in on photos, or read text on the news app or websites, you will see a clear difference in display quality in favor of the XS. The XS has a way better OLED display than the LCD display on the XR. As a matter of fact, the LCD display on the XR is slightly worse than the iPhone 8 Plus's display. It is not a bad display on the XR, and most consumers won't notice it for day-to-day use. However, it is a disappointment to see this kind of display on a $750 smartphone with a sub 1080p resolution. XR also does not offer HDR, while the XS offers HDR. 10R also does not have the 3D Touch functionality that is built into the 10s. 3D Touch allows you to press down on the display with a certain amount of pressure, which gives you access to quick actions and gets you previews of other things like links, photos, and more. With the 10R, a similar but limited version of this functionality is available by using press and hold. So the 10s has a brighter, sharper, clearer, and a more color accurate display than the 10R. We will talk about this situation further and I will tie everything together in our conclusion. For now, let's move on and tackle the camera. So the 10s has a dual camera system. The primary camera is a 12 megapixel f1.8 camera, while the secondary camera is a 12 megapixel telephoto camera with an aperture of f2.4. The 10R has a single camera, which is a 12 megapixel f1.8 camera. The primary cameras on both smartphones have the exact same sensor and lens. They are identical twins. Any photo taken with the primary camera on the 10R will be 100% equal in quality to the 10s. And of course, most video recording capabilities are also identical since most video is recorded via the primary camera. You will get the exact 4K at 30 or 60 frames per second, as well as 1080p at 30 or 60 frames per second, and slow motion video at 1080p at 120 or 240 frames per second. Voice recording for the video footage will be done in stereo as well. So the only extra thing you have on the iPhone XS is the secondary camera that allows for 2x optical zoom and the ability to take portrait shots with a few more options, because the 10R already has portrait option, but it's a little bit less advanced than the one on the 10s. You will be able to get 10 times total digital zoom on the 10s, but the 10R will only go as far as 5 times total digital zoom. And trust me, most consumers don't care about portrait photography or zooming in and zooming out on their cell phone. And of course, the front camera is also identical at 7 megapixels with f2.2 on both smartphones. And that's basically all you need to know. 10s only has a slight lead in this category due to its extra camera. Most photos and videos will be taken by primary camera and they are identical in every sense. So if the camera is the only reason you're trying to make a decision between the two smartphones, then you can just buy the 10R. Now let's move on and talk about the battery life. Alright, so the iPhone XR has a battery capacity of 2,942 milliamp hours, while the XS Max has a battery capacity of 3,174 milliamp hours. In the battery department, both phones yield similar results. Now the 10R does beat the smaller 5.8-inch 10s in battery life, but the 10s Max and the 10R offer approximately equal battery life. This is mostly because the 10R has a lower screen resolution which requires less power to run, while the higher resolution on the 10s Max requires more juice. And of course, both phones do have wireless charging capability. So in the battery department, the 10R and the 10s Max are equal. Now let's move on and see what we can conclude from all this data in your buying decision. First, remember the price difference. The iPhone XS Max is $350 more expensive than the 10R. For the base 64GB model, that's a big price difference. Now, what do we have on the 10s that we don't have on the 10R? Let's make a list. 10s has a superior display with better color accuracy, better brightness, and sharpness, which is a big deal. 10s display also offers HDR, while the 10R does not. And then the 10s has higher IP68 grade water resistance, while the 10R has IP67. 10s has a secondary camera, which is not a big deal. 10s also happens to have 4 GB of RAM, which is 1 GB higher than 10R's 3 GB. Which again, I think is not a big deal. But if you do combine all these things together, are they worth $350 in price difference? And the answer to that is a simple no. On the flip side, in many ways, the 10R is just as good as the 10s. But that is where the problem actually is. Why produce a phone that has a powerful A12 Bionic chip, which is the fastest chip in the market, a great build quality and a top-notch camera, and then ship it out with a low-level display that is lower in resolution than last year's iPhone XVIII Plus's display? The iPhone 8 Plus had a 1080p display with 2 million pixels. The iPhone XR, which comes after the iPhone 8 Plus, has a sub 1080p display with only 1.5 million pixels. And even though the iPhone XR has a relatively bad display, the $350 price difference between the base models compels me to suggest that you buy the XR if you do not have $1,100 but still want some of the latest iPhone experience. Now, if you were trying to decide between the XS and the XR, I would say get the XS because in that case, the difference is $250. But when you're buying a XS Max versus a XR, the difference is $350, which actually starts to become very high. Now, if you do have the money to spare without it causing a dent on your wallet, then go ahead and buy the iPhone XS Max. It will get you the better display plus the few extras we mentioned, which means you'll be getting the full flagship experience. And that brings us to the end of this video. Make sure to subscribe to SAKITECH and give this video a thumbs up. And of course, if you do use Twitter, Instagram, or Facebook, follow me at SAKITECH Online. Have a fantastic day.